Hey everyone, it's Mandy here. Welcome to Yachting International Radio. And I'm stoked today because I'm here with the amazing Jenni Milton, who's a really amazing snow kiter and kiteboarder in general. She does extreme stuff and heaps of tours, but actually should probably introduce herself. You're watching Inspirations with Manda J, and here's Jenni. Do you want to introduce
Hi,
yourself?
good morning, Manda. I am so excited to be here today with everyone on International Sailing Radio and yourself. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you here. So tell us, where are you? What's going on? And who are you?
Okay, so my name is Jenni Milton and I'm from Australia, but right now I'm in Oregon, USA, which normally isn't my plan this time of year. This time of year, it's winter in Australia, and I get super excited to go back and teach people how to snow kite. Do you know what snow kiting is?
I don't know if everyone does. Let's tell the audience. I definitely do. Haven't done it,
Okay.
dying to, but I love my
Okay.
kiting.
So let me tell you about snow kiting. Snow kiting is my passion. I grew up sailing and I grew up skiing. I was so lucky to have such a wonderful family that we did seasonal sports, skiing in the winter, sailing in the summer. And as I was growing up, I started flying kites just as a hobby, enjoying the wind. And one day I saw a picture of somebody flying a kite with a board on water. And it was just the most amazing vision I had seen. I was like, I've got to learn to do that. So this is back in the late 90s, and I bought myself a kite and had no idea how to use it. I nearly killed myself on that thing. I discovered very quickly, covered in grass stains, I needed to get a lesson. But there were no schools back then. So I figured out the only school was in Hawaii. So I'd better take a trip to Hawaii and go and get myself a kiteboarding lesson. But I'm in Australia, that's a big trip for me. How am I going to make that happen? And it ended up, I went to the US on a business trip. And a bunch of my colleagues were going to Alaska to go heli skiing, which was also one of my dreams as a skier. And so I ended up going on that trip, and I packed that kite in with me, and I booked my flight to go back through Hawaii on the way back. It just seemed like the perfect trip. And so I ended up in Alaska with my skis. Actually, I was a snowboarder back then, and my kite. And I still didn't know how to use it. But one of the heli ski guides up there was a windsurfer. And we'd sort of, started chatting. And he had a couple of trainer kites that he'd started using on snow. And so when the weather wasn't suitable for heli to go out and for us to go heli skiing and make that dream come true, it was stormy, it was windy, people didn't know what to do. They called them down days. For me, I was pretty excited for a down day because I got to hang with this really cute guy, and we got to go out with these trainer kites and practice with the kites on snow. And it didn't take us long before we wanted to up the antes and put our snowboards on, and quite quickly we figured out this kite could tow us with our snowboards on backwards and forwards, tacking backwards and forwards, and we called it snow kiting. And back then there weren't too many people doing this, but I went to Hawaii after Alaska, and I had my kite lessons, and I learned how to kite on water. And since that moment, I've been trying to use my kite all seasons. I use it in the summertime on the water, especially in the waves. That's my favorite. And I love to use my kites in the winter on snow. It works really well with skis or snowboard, and it's a fun way to enjoy the snow out in the backcountry, away from the resorts. There's no lifts out there. You can hike, but what if it's just a big flat open lake where I am now? I'm standing on a lake that could possibly be frozen in the winter time, and we could put our kites up and get towed across. It's a really fun activity.
So much fun, and I'm sure there's plenty of kiters watching at the moment, but I don't know if everyone's done the kite ski kite part, the snow kite. Yeah, that's
Kite
cool, it's cool.
skiing, yeah,
So
snow
what
kiting.
you
And you know what?
yeah, you've been doing some before COVID came and we had travel restrictions. You've been doing some cool trips and taking people on adventures. And are you getting back into that? And tell us about that. I think heaps of people would be interested.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, I'm normally back in Australia running tours this time of year, and I'm really sad that I'm not there for all my friends and adventure athletes out there. But I am planning all my tours for the US this year. People are still allowed to, travel around. There are some state mandates still in place, and I'm hoping that by the winter we're going to be able to travel. I'll be in Montana, and I'll be running some snow kites in Montana locally. And then the plan is still to be up in Alaska during March and April. April, snow kite month up in Alaska. It's amazing up there. And the plan is to be running some tours and taking people out up there. There's been an amazing glacial carving at the Valdez Glacier, which is one of my playgrounds, and the pieces of ice have floated off into the lake, and that lake is going to freeze, and during March and April we get to play around icebergs that are frozen in a lake, so therefore it becomes safer for us to play around them. They're not going to tip over. We get to ski, explore, and when I'm not snow kiting, that's definitely what I'll be doing, exploring around the glaciers. So the trips that I run up in Alaska are not just for the extreme junkies. Bring your wife, bring your family. There's something to do for everybody in Alaska. It's really special up there.
So how long do people come for? Is it like a set week, 10 days, 2 weeks, anything?
I run a specialized trip for 10 days for people who are kite surfers. They're already kiters on water. They've got their own kites. They come up and we do a multitude of activities traveling around in RVs for that 10 days. But I'm super flexible. I'm up there all the time. So I'm happy for people to contact me and come out for a day, and I'll show them the areas. And they might just be happy to stay in their RV and kite in that one spot the whole time. So yeah, whatever fits in with your schedule is perfect with me. Just give me a call, and I'll help anybody organize a dream trip to Alaska.
Ah, you're beautiful. I can't wait to do that. So inspire us. What's been if you could pick one, what was your all-time best moment on the snow?
Well, I would like to share with you a moment that was super special to me, and that was the Red Bull Ragnarok. That is a snow kite endurance race that they hold in Norway every year. Unfortunately, it was cancelled this year, but I'm still loving my memories from last year's race. So I'll share those with you. It's a 5-lap, 150 kilometer race that takes 5 hours. It's sailing. You guys all understand sailing. We put marks out there and we have to sail around them. But it's not flat like the ocean or the lakes. It's mountainous, so you can't actually see the marks. We'll be given a topographical map in the morning at the briefing. We don't know the course until that time. So you can't really just train. You don't know where the area is going to be. So you're then given that map, and you can either choose to put the GPS readings in or I like natural navigation. My dad taught me to sail out at sea when I was a little girl, and my mum taught me to use the stars and the terrain of the shoreline, and I love that. So I just memorized that map and went out there to try and achieve these 5 laps around these marks. Now the biggest, scariest part about this race is that there's 400 snow kiters on the start line. Now,
Well,
can you imagine that? Most people are like, oh, how do you guys just not get tangled? And you know what? Some people do. And I was told that, you know, approximately 20% of people get tangled, and that was something I didn't want to do. That would cost me a lot of time, and it would have cost me a lot of mental stress that I knew I couldn't use. So I needed to be very careful at the start line. And I was like, oh my God, do I go upwind? Do I go downwind? Which side of the start line am I going to go? And I made my decision, and it ended up being a really good one to go down on the downwind side of the line, away from the crowds. And although I wasn't with the pack, I was close enough that by the time we got to the first mark, which ended up being scarier than the start line, because now you've got hundreds of kites trying to get around one mark, which we had to go between flags that were about, I don't know, 15 feet apart, 20 feet apart. And so everybody's, you know, banking up. And I made a gutsy move of going on the downwind side of everybody, hoping that I wasn't in their turbulence of kites. Most people had their kites up high, and I down looped that kite to get my kite low, and went round on the inside of the mark and passed. Oh my God, I passed so many people. That was awesome. Super exciting. So now I'm off. I'm past the crowd, except now I'm heading back towards hundreds of kiters, and so you're now having to dodge them and continue on. Now this course, right, it's 5 hours, and up on the ridge lines we had plenty of wind, but down in the valleys there was none, and I had to cross valleys. So of course you pretty much got to commit suicide. Kite into the valley, your kite falls out of the sky. You then grab your skis, put them on your shoulder, and you start running. You make a decision whether to pack your kite up or whether the snow is smooth enough that you can drag your kite to where the wind flow now is. It's all about reading wind in the mountains, which is one of my passions and my challenges in life. And I was lucky to get back up to a ridge line, get my kite up, and continue on with this race. Now, the tricky thing about this race, when I spoke to people who had done it before, was the endurance, the mental side of this race, because it is physically grueling. Most people give up after the first lap, you know, and most people are just stoked to finish one lap. But I'm quite a competitive person, and you know, I dream of winning. So of course I came up with a pretty cool mental strategy. Well, I didn't come up with it. An amazing coach of mine in Australia came up with this great strategy. And he said, okay, Jen, we're going to choose 5 people, or 5 things for each lap. And that's what's going to keep you going. So the first lap I did for my dad. You know, my dad taught me to sail. My dad taught me to navigate. My dad taught me to ski, all the things I needed to win this race. But my dad passed away. So this was a pretty special moment to take him with me on this journey. And I really believe he was there, proud of me, and helped me figure out the navigation, because the first lap was all about navigation. You know, that was the key, how to get between all the marks. And then if I figured it out, you know, the second lap I'd probably improve. By then I'd have my navigation right, and I could just duplicate it. So yay, Dad got me through that first lap, and it was awesome, right? The second lap, I knew that I needed to improve. And you know what? The wind started to drop. Everybody's kites were on the ground. And I thought, okay, lap number 2, I'm doing this for my friend Laura. Now, Laura is just the dearest girlfriend of mine, my kiting partner, the girl that goes out in massive waves with me, and we're the only females out there. She's a super special lady, and unfortunately she passed away in a windsurfing accident only a couple of years ago. And so she was very much in my heart, and I wanted her to be a part of this. And I looked up to the sky and I said, Laura, come on, girlfriend, give me some wind. And you know what? I felt a puff. She was there for me, and the wind picked up, and off we went. I had Laura helping me out, and that was amazing. We got through the second lap. Now, the third lap, I figured I'd have my navigation down, and so this needed to be my fastest lap. Go, 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 Jen. Don't look around at better routes. Just stick to your navigation and go. And so I did the third lap for my brother. Now, my brother is Australia's most awarded skier. He's actually Australia's fastest skier. He holds the Australian speed skiing record at 213.68 kilometers an hour. I told you I lived in a competitive family. Anyway, so my brother is the fastest skier, and I thought, oh, maybe I've got some of those speed genes in me. I'm going to do number 3 for my brother, and he's going to be there with me. And you know what? That third lap was my fastest. It wasn't only my fastest, it was actually the fastest female lap of the whole race. So I was super proud to hear that after the race when I heard the times. Now, I'm starting to get pretty tired after lap 3. I was super excited to go fast, but I knew that lap 4 was going to be one of the hardest because I'm starting to get pretty hungry. I'm starting to get thirsty, and I'd had a bit of an issue. I bit the valve off my camelback and it leaked. It leaked completely. I had no water left, and it leaked down my jacket, down my pants, into my ski boots. So as I'm thinking to myself, boy, I'm thirsty, I was hearing squelch in my ski boot, having a wet, soggy boot for the next few hours. So it was getting really tough. Now, lap number 4, I decided to do for people with depression. And that was something that, you know, I've certainly touched on in my life, and I'm not ashamed of, and people in my family and so many friends. And I'd met a lady who'd lost her son recently to it. And so it was in my mind, and I wanted to do lap 4 for people with depression. And that worked out perfect, because when I was going, oh my God, this is so tough, I thought to myself, no, this isn't tough. Dealing with depression every day is really tough. You know, and when I was thinking, oh my God, the pain in my legs are killing me, I thought to myself, oh my God, the pain that mother was feeling when she lost her son to suicide, that's real pain. This isn't pain. This isn't a hard race. This is nothing. Go, Jen, go. And that was really powerful. It was a really powerful feeling to have during lap 4. And you know what? I made it to that finish line of lap 4, but I had 1 lap to go, and I had no water. My mouth was so pasty dry, I couldn't eat anything. And you know what? They're handing out Red Bulls. And my coach in Australia had said, Jenny, on the last lap, grab a Red Bull. I went, no. I'm not into sugar. I'm not into caffeine. I don't normally drink those. I have no idea what that's going to do to my body that I've trained to be an athlete to compete this race. And all of a sudden I had no choice. It was like my coach had set me up for that. And I grabbed that Red Bull and took a few glugs. Oh my God, took another breath, glugged on, and passed the bottle on. And so I kept going for lap number 5, powered by Red Bull, powered by the energy, and powered by the person that I'd chosen that last lap for. And that was me. I chose that last lap for me. And so this was my time to push on. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. And at 3/4 on that last lap, the wind changed. And this was something that I hadn't really taken into account in my plan. I'd stuck to my same navigation. And of course, I ended up in a pretty big wind hole. I could see the finish line. I had 10 minutes left on my clock, but I knew it was probably a half an hour run with my ski boots on. There was no way I was going to make it. But at that moment, I was proud. I was super proud. I didn't know where I was in the fleet, but I'd gone my 5 hours, and I started packing up my gear, and a skidoo came and towed me back to my base camp of gear, and there was a little bit of water in my bag, which I drank, but that wasn't enough. And sure enough, I took 3 steps and collapsed. I collapsed from dehydration, from exhaustion. I'd used absolutely everything I had. And luckily someone saw me, and the first aid guys came over and rescued me, brought me back to life, and escorted me back to the bus. And I found out at the ceremony later that when the wind changed, the amazing Steph Bridge, who you may know in the sailing world, she's just incredible. She had noticed that wind change and had changed the direction of her course. She stayed up on the ridge line. She backtracked. Oh, what a smart move that I hadn't thought of. But you know what? I got a second place. I got second in the Red Bull Ragnarok, and I was so proud. You can still hear the emotion in my voice now. So that's my inspiring story for you today.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect that. That was just amazing. Thank you for taking us on that journey. It was just so cool. Thank you so much. And congratulations. What an achievement.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you know. And
so cool. And I think a lot of us can learn a lot from dedicating every lap, you know, and it doesn't have to be in sport. It can be in life, or, you know, for these guys, there's a lot of, you know, yachties out there that do big ocean races or crossings, or even just have long, you know, charters, and you could dedicate each day or week or month, you know, to someone you love and just charge it. And I think, you know, if we all took that on board, we'd be happier beings.
Yeah, what a mental strategy. And I can't thank James back home in Tabary, Australia. Thank you, James. What an amazing mental strategy that worked. And I hope other people could implement that tool in their life too.
So what about, have you got a scary story? What's the scariest story?
Oh boy, I have lots of scary stories. Really? You want to hear a scary one now? I've just inspired everyone. I'm going to scare the crap out of them. So yeah, fear's been something that I've been dealing with in my life a lot. Being a big mountain skier up in Alaska, I learned to conquer fear very early on in my skiing career. It's really scary to stand on top of a big mountain knowing there's avalanches around, and you know, conquering fear has been something that I've worked on all my life. It's something my brother and I both feel is one of the things that sets us apart as athletes, is being able to conquer that fear. And that doesn't mean we're fearless. I mean, I'm a scaredy cat. Seriously, I'm a little scaredy cat. But I know how to push through that fear if I want to achieve something, and it's okay. You know, I've done it many times and I've survived those fears. So I'm going to tell you about a scary story that happened to me last year, which was one of the scariest stories of my life. And I believe my fear training came into practice on this one. I was up in Alaska in a town called Kaktovik. And I was up there to teach kids how to fly kites, which was so cool. And I knew that this was polar bear territory, and I love polar bears. I'd seen them before, and so I was super excited to go up there. And I started, you know, having these dreams. What if I was snow kiting and I saw a polar bear and it started chasing me? What would I do? You know, could I outrun it? And I'm thinking, well, that depends on wind speed, you know. What would happen? And these were just, you know, funny dreams that I was having in my head. But the fact was, when I got there, I was told it's not polar bear season. You won't see one, Jen. You need to come back in a couple of months. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. You know, they're all out on the ice. That's okay. There were heaps of rad pictures of polar bears around the town. Anyway, when I arrived, so did the windstorm. They don't call me Windy Jen for nothing. I arrived and the Beaufort Sea turned on. It was blowing 50 knots, 50, 60 knots for 4 or 5 days, which was just a ground blizzard of snow and blowing dust at where we were at sea level in this little town. And so we spent most of our time indoors. I was teaching these kids to fly kites in the gymnasium, hanging harnesses from the basketball rings, and pumping up kites and letting these little 5 and 6 year old kids run around the gym with this kite, yelling and screaming. They absolutely loved it. So about 5 days into the experience, the weather started to break and we were about to see our first sunset. So of course I'm at home with the teachers in this house, and we're like, we've had dinner, let's go and watch the sunset. sunset's at midnight up there. This is going to be amazing. So we grabbed our cameras, and we had 4 dogs with us because we were teaching the kids. I was teaching them to fly kites. We had an Olympic Nordic skier teaching them to ski. We had biathlon with laser guns. We had 4 dogs with us to teach them ski touring. So they get towed with the dogs with the cross-country skis on. So we'd had kites to tow them, dogs to tow them, heaps of fun. Anyway, so we took these dogs out for a walk, and one of the teachers said, "Hey, Jen, grab your trainer kite." I'm like, "Sure, no problem." I hadn't had my kite in the sky the whole time I'd been there. So I grabbed this little mini trainer kite. It's still blowing, probably 40 knots at this stage. And we went out there and had a beautiful walk in the sunset. And I put up this trainer kite to kind of demonstrate some skills to the teachers. And the next thing I know, I hear, "Bear, bear." And I look over, and there's a polar bear running towards me. I'm flying the kite, and there's a bear running towards me. My instant reaction was, run, right? And I'd seen so many posters saying, "Don't run." I'm sorry, but F that. I ran, and I turned around, and I saw the other teachers, and they're all running. We all reacted the same way. Run, there's a bear coming. Now this bear it didn't just come from like a long way away. It came over a ridge, and so it was really close by the time I saw it. I'd let go of my kite, and I'd started running, and the next thing I know, I was face down, flat on the ground, with a bear chasing me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm that slowest runner. I'm the one at the back that's going to get eaten by the bear. And I got up to my feet, and I realized that I was still attached to the kite. I had my leash on, and so the kite had stopped me from going anywhere. And so I knew I needed to get that leash off. Now, the teacher who was closest to me had turned around and seen me fallen over and gone, "Oh my God, Jen's about to be mauled by a polar bear." And he started yelling and waving his arms, which was the smartest thing he could have done. And I started yelling, but just bear, bear, bear. But my hands were just trying to get this Velcro wrist leash off. So in terms of distance, I knew how far my kite was away. I had 25-meter lines on my kite, and the bear's now closer to me than my kite. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this could be it. And to see a lopping, I'm going to call it lopping as those polar bears do, bear running towards me at pretty high speed with eyes focused on me was one of the scariest moments of my life. But I just kept fiddling with this Velcro wrist leash. And finally that Velcro wrist leash came off. Now the bear's probably halfway between my kite and me, off to the side a little bit. And as soon as I got that leash off, the wind picked the kite up, and the bear stopped, and he saw the kite out of his peripheral vision, and he turned and he ran and he chased my kite, giving me then time to run away to the closest building. I was yelling, "Polar bear, polar bear." And a guy came out of the building, which happened to be the power plant, the only manned building at midnight in this little village. And he was then able to call Polar Bear Patrol, and they turned up on skidoos, 5 minutes later, and started shooting fireworks at the bear to scare it out of the village. Once the bear got to my kite and realized it wasn't food, it wasn't anything, it then turned around and started coming back into the village following me. And so they scared it out of town, which was wonderful. And yeah, then the teacher's house turned into a how to deal with a close encounter of a polar bear. Therapy room for the next few days. Yeah. So do you like that one, Mandu? Is that a scary enough story for you?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to fly you around the world with me, and you can talk at all my events. That is such a great story. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
you're awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show, and It's been so enjoyable. We should do it again sometime because I'm sure you've got more stories for everyone and they'd love to hear it.
Thank you so much, Manda, for having me and listening to my stories. It's wonderful to share these stories with people. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll come back anytime.
We're going to get you back on. It was super inspiring. And so we'll put your links below too. So if people want to, come and play with the polar bears and come snow kiting with you and on an adventure or do something extraordinary, they can find you. And just before we go too, hey, you run a pretty cool Facebook snow kiting page as well. Do you want to just tell people about that? Because you might have caught some attention.
Well, yeah, you can follow me on social media. I've been into adrenaline sports for a long time, so my nickname is Adrenogen. Adrenogen. You can find me on Instagram, Adrenogen, Facebook, Adrenogen, and I'll have my new website up soon, adrenogen.com, which is going to be fantastic. And if you'd like to learn more about snow kiting, I've got some exciting stuff happening on a Facebook group. It's Snow Kite Australia. Snow Kite Australia. I set this up in the last few months I felt a great responsibility to all my students back home that I couldn't get there for. And so I've started posting all my secrets. You guys, if you wanna hear some snow kiting or kiting secrets, these tips are good for water and for snow. Yeah, please join my group, come be part of it, and yeah, I'd love to share my passion of snow kiting with you.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a really good group. I love it. I check it out every day. I'm a huge fan, so thanks for sharing it and can't wait to see you in Alaska soon. And let's have you back on the show. Thanks so much. You've been listening to Yachting International Radio and Inspirations with Manda J. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much, Jenni Milton, Adrenogen. You're a legend.
Woo-hoo.
Woo!
Thank you. Have a great day.